create training programs, it's really important to assess fitness before we do that. That's so that we can set specific goals for our performers, and we can also see a benchmark for improvement, so we know what we need to do to improve. Fitness tests can range in that they can be maximal, so they can be to the point of exhaustion, or they can be submaximal, whereby we don't go to exhaustion and we gauge our maximal efforts off a table or something similar.
The beep test is a maximal test because we are required to continue until we are too fatigued to carry on. By that, we have to keep up with the beeps, which progressively get faster and faster. As we start to get to the later stages of the beep test, we'll begin to move from our aerobic system into our lactic system. And ultimately, our fitness is determined by our body's ability to remove that lactic acid and get enough oxygen to our muscles. And at the point that we can't do that anymore is the point that we tend to drop out of the beep test. One of the other big things about the beep test though is our motivation. If we get bored at it, we tend not to do as well. So it's really hard to get accurate results from this test. Submaximal fitness tests are tests which do not test us to absolute exhaustion. Instead, we will work for a limited period of time, assess our recovery heart rate or something similar, and then gauge our results against a table. So it means no direct measurements are taken, which can lead to inaccuracies in our results, but ultimately they're actually good tests for those athletes who struggle to be pushed to absolute fatigue, which really is most of us, as not many people have that innate ability to go so hard to the point of passing out. With this test, the Harvard Step Test, we step up and down on a bench for 5 minutes at a constant pace, and the bench is at a set height too. We step up and down consistently for those 5 minutes, and then we record our recovery heart rate at the end. The sit and reach test tests our flexibility. We reach forward on a bench, and it is measured as to how far we can reach. This tests the range of movement at our hip joint. The vertical jump test tests our leg power. So what we do is we measure a point on the wall that we can reach, the highest point, and then we jump and we measure that highest point. We then measure the distance between the 2 points to gauge our ability. The standing broad jump also measures our leg power. So what we do is we stand on a line and we jump 2 foot to 2 foot, and we measure from our heel back to the line. The distance will then give us our ability. It's worth noting that these aren't the only fitness tests that we can use to measure something submaximally. We've got other tests that test VO2 max, and we can do those either via running, walking, or on the bike, as well as other tests that test our power and our strength and our flexibility in different areas of our body. This means that we can make sure we have a full assessment of someone's fitness before we set out on a training program with them. Equally, by being submaximal, we're not going to cause injury or unnecessary fatigue to athletes that may actually already be fatigued. There are also many other types of maximal fitness tests that we can do. We can do these in the water, on the bike, or again with running. The problem with most of these types of tests is that in order to take direct VO2 max measurements, we're going to need to have expensive equipment to be able to do it properly. Otherwise, just like the beep test, we gauge it off a table, which can be inaccurate.